Yeah. Hope you're having a great morning. Tuesday, October 15th. If you were off yesterday for Thanksgiving, had a nice long weekend, welcome back to the Daily Grind. I'm going to kick things off here just with a couple of announcements and notices. First off, and Liz Zagalis has been doing a great job covering it this morning, but do please note that the Fort Street entrance, the Lucien Lallier entrance to the 720 are open again, because here's what's happening. And this was happened to me yesterday on my commute home, because I got to take St. Antoine to get home. But everyone's trying to go to Rose de Lima to get on the highway there, and then they can't get on because it's closed. And then they all have to take St. Antoine. So I'm stuck in traffic with all the folks taking St. Antoine because they don't know that Lucien Lallier and Fort Street are both open. So if you're driving around today, you're in the downtown core, we'll tell you again. You heard it all morning. I'm going to keep repeating it. Get on those entrances and save my commute this afternoon. Okay, that's the first thing. The other thing is, and if you missed it yesterday, I don't blame you because it was a holiday. And on yesterday's show, I spoke to you about the folks in TMR, who I love. I went to elementary school in TMR. Love TMR, Carlisle Elementary. I know all the streets in TMR, like Graham. I know them all. And the folks in TMR are upset because the REM, the light rail line, well, it's going to close one of their bridges, Cornwall Avenue. It's going to close one of their bridges, and they want the whole project shut down. So I went off the rails yesterday because I love the people in TMR, but I find it funny how they are all freaking out that they're going to lose an access to the road. And I'm like, join the club. It's been 10 years of war against NDG where you can't get in and out of the borough. The folks in Chateauguay trying to cross the Mercier. The people in Anjou dealing with traffic there. The people near Agrignan dealing with traffic. The people near the La Fontaine Tunnel that are going to have to deal with traffic. Everyone's got to deal with it. Now, TMR, it is your turn. So I sort of complained and whined a bit about the whiners in TMR. And now we'll kick off the panel with a story out of St. Anne de Bellevue. And for that, joining me on the panel, it's Trudie Mason. Hi, Trudie.
Good morning.
And Anne Lagace-Dowson. Hi, Anne.
Hello.
So here's the story in St. Anne de Bellevue. So again, people are just like, oh my goodness, how could anything go wrong in my community? How could I deal with anything? Because the folks in St. Anne de Bellevue are upset that trees are being taken down for the REM. We're talking about 200 trees, okay? Some of them were already dead, but we're talking around 200 trees that have to come down so that they can complete, just like in TMR, so that they can complete this magical train line that's going to come every 5 minutes and take people to and from downtown. Can we stop? Can we? Is it enough here? Can every single community stop impeding progress like something like the REM, that when it happens, we're all going to be glad it's there?
Well, I think what you have to recognize is the REM is going to be a much more prominent scar on the landscape that I think a lot of people visualized. I'm a West Islander. My house is not near the REM line, but I'm driving by the construction zone every day. And I see how mind-boggling that scar is going to be. And I'm so glad my backyard is not half a block away like some people on the West Island. So I think it's just coming as a shock. And yes, we're all going to be glad maybe when it's done. But in the interim, they're cutting down trees. The tree clearing at the edge of Fairview was much more significant than the one they're talking about in St. Anne de Bellevue. There's a huge, because there's going to be a station there. So they had to clear a lot of trees. You didn't hear the same complaints. There were some complaints. I remember running some news stories about the complaints at the time. But now that people are seeing the size of this thing and understanding, the pylons are up. Yeah. So we're getting a sense of how high this train is going to be up in the air with its noise generation. Yes, allegedly a lot quieter, blah, blah. But you need old growth trees to attenuate that noise. Yeah. So if you were hoping that planting trees or maintaining existing green space was going to help attenuate the noise, you are sadly mistaken.
I get all that. But at the end of the day, you're going to get a nice, sparkling new train.
Yeah, it'll be lovely as it whizzes by your house and you're going in the other direction and can't take it because it's not convenient or it's not running at the times you need or, blah, blah. Give people a chance to get used to the notion. It is a gigantic visual and noise generating process. There is going to be some grumbling, and that's what we're hearing.
I agree. I think it's a big adjustment for people. People move to the West Island in part because of the green and the scenery and the trees and stuff. And so this is a big change. Like, I've seen those same pylons and I was shocked by them too. The ones that run along the 40, you're like, oh, look at that. Wow, that is like big. It's imposing, and it changes a lot of what people have become accustomed to. The thing that worries me even more than the cutting of trees in St. Anne de Bellevue and changes in TMR is the damage and burial of the wetlands in the West Island near Dorval, because there are no wetlands left, and those are the sponges that absorb all that torrential rain that causes that kind of rain that causes flooding, and there will be no more of that because of the REM. And then I'm also a little worried about conflicts of interest related to real estate with the REM. Like, that bothers me a lot. So these big projects, I don't think there was enough consultation and thought put into some of it, like giving up the tunnel in the mountain. Like, I have a lot of questions. I can
understand concerns about the REM and concerns about land near stations. I get that. What I don't get is for people to sort of not look around you and realize everyone on this island has been inconvenienced at one point over a big project. Like, I had to inhale dust for 5 years as they built the super hospital. It's just life living in this city. So I find certain people are saying, well, we can't have it here. We have a nice community. Can't possibly have it here. It's fine when it happens in LaSalle or NDG, but this is happening in our pristine TMR, our pristine St. Anne de Bellevue. These things happen.
Yeah,
and we're going to get a project
as a West Islander, I will admit that on the West Island, there's a little bit of an assumption that, a little bit of privilege going on there, that this is a suburban community and we like our peace and quiet and don't come and mess things up. So, yeah, and I grew up in Dorval, Lachine. I live in Pierrefonds now. I'm entitled to say that because I am a true West Islander. But again, you got to give people time to get used to this. And we need answers, too. Those people in St. Anne de Bellevue, you're calling them whiners. I would like to know about this tree replanting that the REM people have in mind. Because what the people in St. Anne are saying is, we need to know that planting is actually going to happen here. It's not going to happen where they're noisier, where they complain more in TMR, for example, or in Saint Laurent or in some other area. What is the landscaping plan, especially for noise attenuation? Because when you realize that those trains are passing 3 floors up, 3 stories up, that means that they're spreading their noise all over the neighborhood. What are your plans? And nothing, because this is one of those design build projects where they figure stuff out as they go along.
Yeah, but I think for me, it's, people getting up in arms over this REM when it happens all the time. Think of construction projects where trees get cut down. It's not just the REM, but there's this sort of focus on this REM because it's happening fast that it's any more worse than all of the other things we have to go through, right? So whether you're in the eastern part of downtown, you had to deal with the shroom, or you're in NDG, these things happen, and trees are going to get cut down, and then hopefully it'll be better. But I think we're sort of losing sight of the progress and losing sight at the end of the day. We're going to end up with this train line, and Trudie, you mentioned a train that you can't get when you want, or it's not running at the right time. This is a train that's going to run every 5 minutes. And it's going to drastically improve the way West Islanders get into downtown.
Yeah, so they tell us, yes.
Well, what do you think is going to happen? You think it's going to turn into...
I think it's all dependent on usage. And since they're not putting parking in place as they plan, at least not that they've told us, I think it may be underused and they would use that as an excuse to cut service.
I want to thank a texter who wrote this in, who just put it all succinctly in a nice little nugget. I wish I thought of it first. First, we complain that there's no public transit to and from the West Island. Now we complain that there will be inconveniences because of public transit. I live on the West Island, and we have to give up something to get something. You lose 200 trees, you get a brand new train line.
Yeah, I agree, but you know what we don't give up is the right to ask questions of what the plans are. Where's your parking going to be? How many trees are coming down for your parking lots? Yeah. I want parking lots. I want parking available. The latest rumor I heard is that they're going to put a parking lot under Fairview and make a ton of money from commuters there. I would just like to know, are we not allowed to ask questions? Because it's capital P progress, Elias. It's capital P, capital E, ecological progress. And we're not allowed to ask questions about where they're going to plant the trees?
All the questions you want. That's why I have you here every day at 9 o'clock.
That's whinging. That's whining.
No, it's like, my trees, my 200 trees.
Oh, okay. Come on. Trudie's right. You should be able to ask questions, and you should be able to whine, too. That's what democracy is.
All right, we are back here on the panel. And Lagace-Dowson, Trudie Mason in the studio with me. Now a story out of the UK, because when I want common sense, I go and look towards the UK government. So the UK,
Boris Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. UK government, the bastion of common sense in this world right now. The UK government climate committee is recommending that there be a ban on air miles and frequent flyer programs in an effort to combat the climate crisis. They say that it's the easiest way for consumers to do something for the environment, just give up flying. And they say it's also going to impact the rich more, because it's the rich that fly, right? The poor, they don't fly, right? It's just the rich that are going to be impacted by this. So I guess the real question I have this morning is, should frequent flyers be executed or merely jailed?
Well, it's true that really, relatively speaking, privileged people are the ones who travel, except if you have one of the credit cards where you hopefully get enough points together so eventually you might actually be able to go on a trip at some point, like, in the distant future. But flying is extremely polluting. There's no question about that, right? Like, the fuel is super toxic and gross, and it leaves particulate matter in the atmosphere and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I think this is like more treating a symptom than the larger issue. I don't see this as being particularly critical. Like, it just seems sort of redundant. Like, there's so many other more pressing aspects to the climate crisis.
I can't wait till these guys Brexit themselves out of existence. We don't have to hear from them again.
It is a bit funny, actually. Like, who even thought about? I don't know. It seems odd to me.
This is why they're in chaos, because they're dealing with this as opposed to dealing with their impending doom. Trudie?
Well, I mean, they point out that some of these air miles style, because I think air miles is copyrighted or something. Yeah. These
frequent flyer
points programs oblige you to use them or lose them. And what they're pointing out is that encourages people to fly when they don't necessarily need to fly. Weren't planning to fly, but all of a sudden, oops, we're going to lose our 500,000 points and so they load the whole
500,000 points. But anyway,
you get the point. I don't belong to these because
Trudie after the Christmas holiday shopping season.
No, actually, no, I absolutely do not collect. I think those are the biggest boondoggle you could ever, because you know what? It ain't free. Your travel ain't free. You're paying for your points every time you make a purchase at places that accept the card.
That's true, but that's I do cashback cards only because I hate dealing with the points. And also, let's be honest here. You ever try and use air miles?
Oh no, it's horrible.
It is easier to join ISIS than to use air miles. I'm not kidding.
And in addition to that, there's all these hidden costs and fees, and suddenly you're like, wait a minute, why didn't I just buy a ticket when I wanted to go with my money?
When I say air miles, by the way, I'm just referring to air miles. I'm not throwing them out. The other programs are much easier to use. Air miles is a joke. I can't stand using them. Doesn't work properly.
I do. You know what? I wouldn't be opposed to some type of a levy or a tax on air miles. Because,
really?
Yeah, because I do believe that's I'm not opposed to
Trudie Mason's in favor of a tax or levy on air miles?
Yeah, because I'm not opposed at all to sin taxes, and I think that collecting air miles so that you can go on fancy overseas vacations is a luxury. Anne is right. Flying is out of reach for a substantial
90% of the population
of the world. We are so
look at the statistics.
You said of the world, but of
no,
Canadians.
I mean even of Canadians. Lots of Canadians never fly anywhere. They don't leave the country, or very rarely. They go on the ground in their vehicles. Or they take trains if they're lucky. Most people do not fly. My father, who built aircraft, never went on a vacation by plane.
I think we're blinded to our own affluence here in Canada. We really are. We don't understand that things we take for granted as our right are actually considered unthinkable luxuries to most people on the planet. But it's a sin tax.
But the growing middle class in the world, the people that are being lifted from poverty, well, that's what they want to do. They want to travel. Why can't they see the world just like us?
And because they've joined the middle class, they can afford it. They can afford the tax.
And they can pay for the carbon taxes that go with it.
You seriously? Both of you are like, okay, let's stop air travel?
Can you argue against sin taxes?
Is air travel mandatory? Like, do you need to go by plane?
But it's not a sin.
Is it? Yes, it is. Not a sin, but it's a luxury. It's not mandatory. You don't need it the way you need to be able to go to the hospital or go to school or go to work. You don't need it. It's something that is added on, and it's a privilege. It's not a right. I feel the same way about automobile ownership in a lot of cases too. It's not a right; it's a privilege.
come on. Someone's annual trip to Cuba for a week so that they can continue to live their lives and
I was
going
to
to
say, how lucky that they're going to Cuba, because for many, many, many years out of my adult life, we have not had an annual vacation anywhere. We haven't flown. We've gone whole stretches of time, probably 7, 8, 9, 10 years without flying.
Exactly.
So
and that's the norm. That is the norm
pretty well
for
the
most
norm.
Canadian families. It's not the norm to hop on a plane.
Well,
I don't know. Like I think that
you
if
guys
you look
are,
statistically at it, you will see that most people don't fly.
I started off with a joke, but you guys are very close to the execution stance. Let me tell you. Okay.
No, we're just saying. We're just saying if you can afford to buy a ticket. Listen, if I can afford to buy a plane ticket, as Kevin and I did for our anniversary, our 25th to Hawaii last year, I can afford to pay an extra $10 or $20 if I'm using my air miles.
But there's a story today in La Presse about how these sort of carbon offsets are actually bogus, and some of these companies aren't even following through with it. So,
well, the story in La Presse is that some of the plantations fail due to poor planning. Yeah, you need to crack down.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about politics. We still have some time here. Voter turnout for the advanced polls way up. What do you think this says?
I think the most motivated voters go and get it done, right? Like they're the ones who are like keen and they're paying close attention and they go off and vote. A lot of us...
It always goes hand in hand, though. If advanced polling's up, voter turnout,
Yeah, and I think people are quite concerned about what's going to happen next. And there's been some surprises to this campaign, right? Suddenly the Bloc is on the radar again in Quebec. I think that got a lot of people up off of their couches in certain places. And the NDP is doing surprisingly well. Jagmeet Singh has proven to be a very, very good campaigner. And he's done really much better than anybody expected. So, suddenly predictions of the demise of the NDP have been found to be very premature. So there's some surprise elements, and the leaders are going flat out in this last week because the polls are so unclear. Like if you're a pollster right now, you're probably freaking because they're all over the place. It's very strange. So it's a really interesting election. I find it super interesting, but I'm not interested in organized sport. I'm interested in politics. So I don't follow the Habs. I follow politics.
Some people would say it is organized sports.
Well, in a way, it's very similar, except there's a lot more at stake. So much more at stake.
Elections Canada has also made it easier to go.
vote.
And don't forget, too, that the election day is on a Jewish holiday. So some people have to vote if they're going to observe the holiday. So that might be tweaking the numbers. But also, Elections Canada has put in more advanced polling places. I think the hours were expanded this time too. So all of a sudden it is super convenient to, and I think people, they don't know who likes lineups. And when it's so easy to go to an advanced poll and no line, no waiting.
So Matt Guite went to vote yesterday, our producer here. He went to vote yesterday and said it was chaos, long lineups. How long did you wait, Matt, to vote yesterday?
10, 15 minutes in line.
What an affront to your democratic rights.
When I got in this morning, it was a whole thing like, 3 hours and blah, blah, blah. It sounded a lot longer.
I was also there at quite late at night. I went thinking, I'll beat the rush. Everyone will have been there. But there was big lineups in every queue. And in the past, when I voted in advance, late at night like that, a couple people.
Okay. Well, for me, it was literally 30 seconds on Friday. Walked in. It took longer because I brought my dog, and they were so bored out of their minds. All the election employees were so bored out of their minds. They just, after I voted, they came and played with my dog for 5 minutes. That's what took the longest time.
They let you take your dog?
Yeah, and they were like, they were like, listen.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, because nobody was around.
On your radio show.
Nobody was around because they're like, if somebody came in and complained, so they let me in,
Is that a smallish dog?
It's 40 pounds, Okay, let's keep it talking about the elections here. Jagmeet Singh on Sunday said, hey, coalition, totally cool, awesome, I'd be game. And then yesterday, walked it back. Here's what he said.
Hi. Just want to come back to the coalition question, because you did kind of open up the door yesterday, but today it sounds more like you're backing off from it. So is a coalition a bad thing?
No, I mean, it's not about, so my focus is not on a coalition. My focus is on this. If you vote New Democrat, you're going to get someone on your side, and everything that you want, you'll have someone who's going to fight to make it happen. And what I've said before is that, for me, whatever happens in this election, I want to be very clear. We've got a lot of momentum. There's been a lot of
and then he starts, blah, blah, blah. He goes into his talking points. But why is coalition such a four-letter word? And Liberal leader Justin Trudeau asked about it, same thing. Deflect. Why can't we talk? Why can't we actually be, like, for Jagmeet Singh especially, he's not going to be prime minister. He's not going to form the next government. Why can't he plainly say, yeah, I'm going to be part of a coalition? Why is it such a dirty word?
That's a good question, and I don't know why. Because in the past, when we had the NDP holding the balance of power with the Liberals, we got all kinds of benefit. We got the Order of Canada. We got all kinds of excellent programs, including better unemployment benefits. There were all kinds of good things about coalitions. And a coalition is a legitimate form of government in Australia, in the UK, in New Zealand. I don't know what it is. I think what it is machismo. You need to look like you're going to win. Win. And I think that's ridiculous. And that's why I was in favor of proportional representation.
To me, it looks like you're out of touch, though. It's like, hello, dude, you're not going to win. Why?
No, but it's a form of political sort of grandstanding, and the NDP isn't alone in that. I think it's got to do with, we're good, we can run the place. And meanwhile, people are looking at all of the different parties and thinking, we don't like any of you well enough to give you the majority. We just don't. The polls are absolutely amazing. They're stuck at 32%. They're not budging. People don't like what they're being offered.
I think, though, that there is a perception that talking coalition makes you look like a loser.
It makes you look weak, but that's ridiculous.
But in a way, I understand that, because I think talking coalition demotivates your voters. But it shouldn't. If you, the leader, have put it in your supporters' faces with the election still a week away that you're doomed, that you will not be forming the government, you're telling them, you know what, go stay home. It's very demotivating, and I think that that's what they're trying to avoid, because it will affect turnout. And in a lot of ridings, turnout is extremely deciding. Whichever party can get the vote out is the one that's going to win in close races. So that's why I think he's walking it back. It's not good for encouraging people. You want people to have hope right up until the moment where the pencil's in their hand and they're marking their X or their mark or whatever they're doing. That's what you want as a leader. Not to be talking about what you're going to do when you lose.
That works for the Liberals, who have formed majority government. In the case of the NDP, the hill is awfully steep. A coalition is a huge leg up for the NDP and potentially could have really interesting ramifications on federal politics, because we've seen that.
Maybe coalition talk. If you're the NDP, if you're Jagmeet Singh and you talk about coalition, you're telling people vote Liberals in code.
But vote for the NDP. Do what your conscience tells you. And I just saw this. I mean, Jagmeet Singh is doing he just did a live scrum in Toronto, and he handles himself extremely well. Yeah,
it's a shame about the NDP's policies, because he'd be a pretty decent leader otherwise. All right, thanks, guys. Lagace-Dowson and Trudie Mason. Love you guys. You guys are great. Thanks for coming on this morning.